In this video, I'm going to show easy hip strengthening exercises for seniors and beginners. Stay tuned. Hey everyone, Dr. Rowe coming to you from SpineCare in St. Joseph, Michigan. In this video, we're going to go over easy hip strengthening exercises with seniors and beginners in mind. So no awkward positions and no equipment is needed. All of these exercises work just a little bit differently. They're going to target different muscle groups, put the hip through different motions. To get the best results, go through them all and use what works best for you. As a bonus, all of the exercises can be done at home and these can be done daily. But make sure to put a recovery day in there if you are building a lot of soreness. So with that being said, let's get started and strengthen those hips right now. Let's start with a set of seated exercises that you can do right at the edge of a chair. The goal of these exercises is to put the hip through different motions, engage more muscles that support it to hopefully build more strength and stability. I'm going to go over the easier exercises, and when you feel ready, progress into the more challenging ones. The first one is known as a seated hip march. I'm going to start seated with very good upright posture right at the edge of a chair. With this one, I'd like to tighten my core for a little bit more support and take my hands off to the side right here and grip the chair. The first movement, pretty easy. I'm going to have my legs at hip width apart, knees bent roughly at 90 degrees, feet flat. You're going to take one knee and march it and drive it upward towards the ceiling as much as you can. The focus with this exercise is to engage the top part of the leg, the quadricep muscle, and the glute off to your rear right here. The glute is a big stabilizer of the hip, so you really want to focus on engaging that muscle. And with these movements, if you start to notice pain with any of them, don't go to that point. Back off very slightly, because with the repetitions, you should gain more pain-free range of motion to build into it over time. So let's get into a comfortable race right here and hold this one for 5 seconds. With all of these exercises, so I don't have to keep repeating it, we're going to do 5-second holds for 10 to 15 repetitions on both sides. So I'm going to hold this one comfortably, 5 seconds. I'm going to relax and then repeat it on the other side. And with each repetition, challenge yourself to drive up just a little bit more to engage those muscles. If that feels like it's a little bit too easy, we can then progress into a straight leg raise. So I'm going to straighten my knee out as much as I can, have my heel on the floor, toes pointed upward towards the ceiling. With this one, we want to start off with really focusing on engaging that quadricep muscle. So really tighten this front part of the leg. Once we feel that, I'm going to then raise my toes upward to the ceiling as much as I can. You're going to feel a lot fire across the legs. I pretty much feel it into my calf, right here into my quadricep, and also into that glute. From there, I just relax and then repeat it on the other side. Next, I like to put a little bit more of a swing in there to hit the muscles just a little bit differently. So let's get back into our original position with our legs hip width apart, knees bent at 90 degrees. This time around, I'm going to do my knee march right here, lifting it up, but I'm going to slightly swing my knee outward just a couple inches and then hold this position. I'm going to relax and then I'm going to repeat this until I can't go out any further. You're really trying to focus on driving that hip outward into external rotation. When you can't go out any further, you're then going to work back towards the starting point and then switch to the other side. You're going to notice that one certain spot just hits it the best. Maybe you have just a lot of tightness, achiness, possibly even pain building in that position. Treat that like your weak link and focus on throwing more repetitions in there to challenge those muscles and hopefully build more strength and pain-free range of motion. From there, I like to then put a little bit more on the muscles and take it to the next level by focusing on what is known as an isometric exercise. And for this one, we're going to use our hands. This one's really going to challenge those muscles. So let's start off by getting back into our original position. Hips, I should say my legs hip width apart, knees bent at 90 degrees. I'm going to overlap my hands right here and put them right over my knee. The goal is drive your knee upward into your hand, but resist against it. Again, really focusing on the front part of the leg, the quadricep, and engaging those glutes. You're going to do this one 5-second hold, relax, repeat to the other side, and repeat 10 to 15 times. You can also do that leg swing with this one. If you do remember one certain spot that was your weak link, do this and throw some repetitions in, because you'll notice that it makes it a little bit more challenging and hopefully you'll strengthen those muscles at that point. Another movement that you can do that's really going to focus on taking the knees into rotation, external rotation or outward and also inward, is to go back to our original position right here, knees at 90 degrees. Take your hands, put them on the outside of your legs. The goal is to drive your knees outward as much as you can, but resist against it. You'll notice the muscles get hit just a little bit differently with this one. I really feel it on the outside of my glute. And with this one, 5-second hold, you're going to relax 10 to 15 times. Next, let's focus on internal rotation to again hit the muscles just a little bit differently. I like to take my hands, make fists, and put them together. If you do have a lot of sensitivity with your hands, maybe you have arthritis, you can substitute it by using something like a basketball, a therapy ball, or even just a thick pillow kind of wedged in between your knees. But you're just going to put your hands together like this in fists, put them on the inside of your knees, and then squeeze inward for a 5-second hold. Relax 10 to 15 times. Go through all of those movements. If you feel like one is targeting your hips just a little bit better, at that point, throw more repetitions in. And if you feel like you have some more energy, you can do all of these movements for another set or two. So here's a hip strengthening exercise that you can do in bed or on a floor. I call this one the Deadbug Bridge. I really like this one because not only is it going to focus on our back, but also the front muscles, because when you put both of those together, you'll get the best results for strengthening and building stability across our hips. So let's start off lying flat on our back in bed or on a floor. I'm going to bend my knees at 90 degrees, have my legs hip width apart. Take your hands, overlap them, put them over one side's knee. Doesn't matter which knee, we're going to do this on both sides. The movement from here is very easy. I'm going to try to drive my knee to my shoulder, but resist against it. When you do this, you're going to notice that the muscles right here on the top part of the leg start to fire. This hits the hip flexors and the psoas muscle, a big instigator of one-sided lower back pain and also hip pain. I try to hold this one comfortably for 5 seconds. I just relax and then repeat it on the other side. I try to do this 3 times on both sides. And with each repetition, challenge yourself, build into it just a little bit more. From there, I'm going to build into the dead bug, which is going to target the abs and the core muscles just a little bit more. So for this one, I'm going to slowly straighten one leg at my knee and lower it down to the bed or the floor. The key with this exercise, though, is not to let your foot or the leg touch the bed. Let it hover just slightly above. You'll feel a ton of muscles start to fire in the core. Hold this one comfortably for 5 seconds. You're just going to relax, and then you're going to repeat it on the other side. On the next repetition, I'm going to challenge the hip just a little bit more. So instead of going straight with it, what you want to do is turn your foot inward like this, and then take your leg inward as much as you can. You'll really feel it fire in the glutes and across those hips. Again, a 5-second hold. You're just going to relax, and then repeat it on the other side. On the final repetition, I'm going to then do the opposite. So I'm going to lower my leg, but this time around, take my toes and foot outward and then take my leg outward as much as I can. You'll really feel it on the inner part of the leg and thigh with this one. 5-second hold, you're just going to relax and then repeat it on the other side. So with this one, if you do feel like you have a little bit more energy, or if you feel like one movement is just really attacking tightness or achiness around your hip, you can throw some more repetitions in. From there, I like to build into the bridge, which is going to hit the posterior chain. That is the back side. So our hamstrings on the back of our legs, our glutes, that big hip stabilizer, and our lower back. So I'm going to start off lying flat on my back, legs hip width apart, knees bent, feet flat. Let's tighten the core muscles and squeeze our glutes. Take your hands, put them right on your hips, and slowly drive your hips upward towards the ceiling until your body is in a nice straight line from your knees to your hips to your shoulders. If you're unable to get into this position, let's say you can only go up just a little bit because of weakness or pain, do the best you can. Over time, hopefully you'll gain strength and flexibility to get into this position. But I feel a ton of muscles start to fire. Core, lower back, glutes, and legs. Hold this one comfortably for 5 seconds. You're just going to relax and then repeat this one up to 10 times. If you would like to take this one to the next level, you can do what is known as a clamshell bridge. So for this one, I'm going to put my feet together and then take my knees outward as much as I can, putting the hips into external rotation. You should feel a very gentle stretch forming on the inner part of the leg, into the groin, into the hips. Once we feel that, we're just going to do the same movement. We're going to drive our hips upward towards the ceiling. I really feel it into my glutes and on the outer part of my hips. It usually feels really good. I like to hold this one for 5 seconds, relax, and again, you can do this one for 10 repetitions. But go through all of these movements. If you feel like one is just offering you more relief, or it's just hitting the hips a little bit better, really targeting weakness or achiness, at that point, throw more repetitions in. And if you have the energy, you can always throw in another set or 2. So here's a set of hip strengthening exercises that you can do standing. For this one, we're going to use our chair again and use one without wheels. I'm going to go over 3 different movements. The first one are known as compass exercises because we're going to mimic going in the directions of a compass. So let's start standing, have very good upright posture, keep your back straight. Take your hand, grab off to the side of the chair for support. Let's tighten the core and squeeze the glutes to begin with. The first movement, let's go north. So I'm going to straighten one leg at my knee, have my toes pointed upward towards me, and kind of like a kicking motion, I'm just going to go forward with it like this, moving through my hip and through my waist. So we're not trying to bend or anything like that. We're really focusing on trying to keep the back straight and moving through our hip. Try to drive those toes upward towards the ceiling as much as you can. You're going to feel a lot start to fire in the leg and also into the glutes. Again, always focus on targeting those glutes because that is a big stabilizer of the hip. Hold this one comfortably for 5 seconds. You're just going to relax and then you're going to go south. Go back as far as you can. With this one, I like to point the toes away from me also. 5-second hold, you're just going to relax. Next, let's go east. That is just taking the leg outward as much as you can. For this one, you're going to notice a lot more muscle starting to fire on the inner and outer part of the leg. 5-second hold, and then we're going to finish by going west, just driving that leg inward as much as we can. You're going to notice that one certain direction is probably the hardest, and for most people, it's probably going north. But any direction that you feel is just a little bit harder to do. Maybe it's addressing a lot of tightness and weakness. At that point, throw more repetitions in, but I try to do at least 5 repetitions in all directions. Next, what I'm going to focus on is what is known as a hip hiker, which is going to help strengthen the glutes a little bit more, but also target a muscle off to one side called the quadratus lumborum. It pretty much runs from the top of the pelvis to the bottom of the ribs. And when this becomes strained and inflamed, you can get a lot of one-sided lower back pain and hip pain. This one is really easy to do. So I'm going to start again having my back straight with very good upright posture. Take one hand, just grab off to the side of a chair for support. What I want to do is have my hips level like this, and I'm just going to start to raise one hip upward towards the ceiling as much as possible. So we're not trying to bend into this. Again, all of the movement through the hip, lift that hip upward as much as you can. You'll feel a ton start to fire in the glutes and also into that quadratus lumborum muscle. Hold this one comfortably for 5 seconds. You're just going to relax, and then you're going to repeat it on the other side. Try to do this one nice and slowly for 10 to 15 repetitions, and with each repetition, try to hike that hip up just a little bit more to challenge those muscles. Last, we're going to focus on the squat. The squat is arguably one of the best ways to strengthen the legs and the glutes to build hip stability. So for this one, I'm going to start facing my chair. My legs are going to be hip width apart, toes out slightly like this. Put all of your weight onto your heels. Again, let's start off by tightening our core and also squeezing the glutes a little bit. From there, I'm going to keep my back straight and then lower my bottom towards the floor by bending through my knees. Go down as far as you feel comfortable. Do not go to the point of pain. What you want to focus on is really engaging those muscles, especially the quadriceps right here on the front part of the leg and the glutes. What you're going to do is hold this position comfortably for 5 seconds. You're just going to relax. On the next repetition, challenge yourself to go down just a little bit more. The more that you go down, the harder this will be. But I try to do this one nice and slowly for about 5 to 10 repetitions. And then from there, if you feel like you do have a little bit more energy, you can throw in more repetitions. And with all of these exercises, you can always throw in another set or 2. If the exercises helped, please support the channel by giving this video a like and maybe subscribing too. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them below. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks for watching.